So today we're going to be replacing the AC compressor down there underneath the alternator, and the condenser, which is right here in the grill. I don't want to get my license plate on there, but here's the new compressor. And I got a condenser because there was a restriction in the condenser, most likely the dryer. And this is a 2002 Toyota Highlander, the V6 all-wheel drive version. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take these bolts off up top. Try to get this grill out so I can get the condenser, which is that honeycomb looking stuff down in there. It looks just like a radiator. This is your radiator right here, and it's right in front of it. It's just like a smaller version of it, and it comes right out here through the front. So once you have that off, it should just be these top ones, and then there's just these little guides on the bottom. Just got to be careful you don't break those off, and those go right in there in those little slits. So as long as you pull it out straight, it should be fine. And you can see, well, there's probably a restriction in my condenser. I did a cross-country trip, and I'm gonna have to guess that it's pretty clogged up. So your next thing that you're gonna want to take off are the lines and these mounting brackets up here, and take your horn out of the way. It's just one bolt. Just put it over here to the side, and this bracket right here, you want to just remove it. It should just be two bolts, one on the bottom, one on the top, and then so that line is down there and that line is right there, pretty self-explanatory, and then it's just that bolt, and it should be just a little O-ring on the inside of there. And if you don't have new O-rings, make sure you don't lose it or cut it, rip it anyhow. The thing is, you are going to have to remove your hood latch in the front so you can get that bracket off in the back. Right. So this bracket here, once you get your hood latch and your horn tucked out of the way, that way this bracket isn't in the way, and they can just see how it's loose now. Only thing holding it in is my line still and this bracket. For this bracket, the last thing is down on the bottom, and that's the bracket still. And if you just kind of pull down, let's see if I can, if you just pull down, there's the bolt right there. Alright, then once you got your lines here disconnected, once I get this summon around off, there it goes, pops out like that. Other one should do the same. See if I can do it on camera, because it sucks sometimes. My coordination. Don't know why she don't want to come out, but she don't. No! Hold on. Alright, I had to use a screwdriver to pry it out, but got that summon around out. And this should just, if I am as genius as I think I am, a little bit of wiggling, that damn thing shaped like that. I gotta wiggle this a little harder. I ain't as smart as I thought I were, but once you get it out from under there, you gotta push them things down there as rubber. That was really confusing for a second why I couldn't get that out of there. But this is the old condenser. Let me lay it down on the floor. I mean, it's a piece of crap now, so it's useless. So I just use it to show you what it's not supposed to look like. Yeah, that ain't normal. And then in there is your dryer. Looks like this is an aftermarket, because these aftermarket ones have that plastic cap there at the bottom. If you try to take it off, it'll get all torn up, and I ain't gonna put myself through that just to show you, but guarantee inside of here there's just a packet full of desiccant, and guarantee that desiccant's either dirty or wet, and if it gets wet, it hardens up just like a beef jerky packet thing that they put in there. That's a desiccant. Keep it dry in there, keep from moisture being where it ain't supposed to be. But yep, that's a piece of crap. If I had the money right now, I'd replace my radiator too, because that is not what it's supposed to look like. So if your radiator looks like that, I suggest you change it. But since this is just my beater car that I don't care about, I'm gonna pretend I didn't see that. Well, I drove a half an hour to get here to work on my car, and my engine's still pretty hot, and I don't want to, yeah, that's my manifold, super hot. So I don't want to go reaching in there and burn myself to get to my compressor, but I'll show you where the compressor's at. You can see that's a compressor right there. It's a piece of crap. It's covered in gunk, and I can already tell that it's just super old. Hold on. But easiest way to work on your compressor and remove it is from underneath. So that's where I'll be doing that. But for now, I'll install the new condenser and let it cool down. So this is a condenser that I got. Let's see. I don't remember if that was a part number or not. So when you get your new condenser, you want to make sure that all this honeycomb looking stuff isn't, you know, dinged and dented, which this one is, because I got it for 50 bucks. So I mean, that's the only thing that I could find on this one that made it not expensive. But I took my chances on this one. I mean, if you look at comparison how tiny that little ding is compared to this fuckery we've got going on over here, I don't even know if this thing doesn't even work at all probably. This will probably work just fine. This dryer comes with the condenser, same with the plastic cap, so don't try to take it off. It is in there. I can hear it moving around, which is not good because you want it to be nice and tight, but since this is a cheapo, whatever. But at least I know that it's installed. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take these rubber little nipple things and you're gonna line them up with those holes at the bottom, and then just work backwards from what you've taken off. And I recommend, you know, having an empty bucket somewhere so you can put your nuts and bolts in there so you don't lose them. Make sure when you're putting the new bracket on that you cross thread the shit out of it, that way it don't come back out never. And when you're done, you should have all your brackets on good. You know, make sure that they're not all bent and all that. Get your horn back on. Get your latch back on. I don't know what that's for. That. Now you're ready to move on to your compressor. Alright, if you're like me, first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to loosen the tension on that belt right there. And they got that nut right there, that one is the tensioner, and then the one right on it's the one that holds the mount on for it. That way you can get all the rest of these mounting bolts off of this alternator, because without that alternator out of there, you're gonna have a hard time getting that compressor out. Tackle them bolts, you're gonna want to take these what you call them. Well, this one here is a grounding nut, or that one's just a ground, I think. I'm electricity challenged, so. But this one, I know what that is. That's just a QD plug right there. You just take that off. Right like that. That's good. Set that off to the side. And then that's probably, yeah, I'd say about 10 millimeter. And that comes right off. Set that aside too. So prior to taking that off of there, you're going to want to disconnect your battery. Otherwise you're going to shock something called the ever-living shit out of yourself. Alright, so we got the alternator out. It's fairly brand new, so I know it works and it's good. So that's where your ground was, that's where the plug was. And then that's where the back bolt mount. Sometimes you need a pry bar to get them out, but since this one's new, I didn't need nothing. And that's the wheel. It spins. Make sure it spins nice and easy. No resistance. And then that's the other mount where the tensioner goes. And all that tensioner is it's just a real long bolt. This is the mount bolt, and then this is the tensioner bolt, and that's the tensioner. Just sits like that. It goes into the mount and goes closer or further to push it tighter or looser. So now we have that out. You can see how much of a mess it is down there. Looks like before I had this car there used to be an oil leak, but what you're going to want to do is you want to unplug it, unplug your compressor. It's covered in grease, and there's a little plastic clip right here somewhere. Where is it? Where is that sucker? Oh, it's right here. Right there. I'm just going to take some pliers, squeeze it, and then it can come out. And then that harness right there should just be able to set it out of the way up here somewhere. But just keep your belt out of the way, because you don't want to have to buy a new belt if you get it all covered in grease and whatnot. Alright, so we're going to take that off, and then the next thing that we're going to go after are the lines. So you can see right there's a line, and this is the other line. You have to disconnect it right here to take it out. This piece is going to stay on because there's these tiny bolts down here. They're like 5 millimeters, and hopefully, I really hope that those come out, because if they don't come out, then I'm going to have to figure out something to use instead of those. I might have to drill those out of there. So hopefully we don't have to. But all that's holding your compressor on is 4 mounting bolts. One here, one there. We get under the car. And the other one's, where is it? Right here and right there. So it's just some 4 mounting bolts, and then you can take the whole compressor out. No problem. Alright, so compressor's out. All you gotta do is drop it down through the bottom, a little wiggle. And problem is the new one doesn't come with this piece. That's what I was trying to say earlier. It just comes like that, where it's just a hole, and you gotta put that mount on there yourself. The problem is Toyota has these as the bolts, and you're probably gonna have to drill those out because they are really shitty. So I don't know, I'm probably just gonna have to drill it out and then use my own bolts, because we need this. So we didn't have to drill them out. I got it off, and I'm just gonna mount it right on there. But what I ended up having to do, where'd it go, was I had to use because the compressor that was on there was aftermarket, so it ended up being, well, I guess that piece is still Toyota. I don't know why it would be an English size, but 7/32 is what got that off there, and it's these tiny little bolts. But they came out real easy. Just don't torque them in real tight whenever you put them on the new one. What I like to do with the new one is, so they usually fill it with oil at the manufacturer and send it to you and plug it. But I'm gonna dump the oil out of it to make sure that it's the right amount, and you don't know what kind they have in there. So I'm gonna put the PAG46. It's the R134A lubricant. It's the same kind of oil that should be in here. It says use only ND oil 8, which this is still under that category, so it doesn't have to say that on the tag. It's just the same category of lubricant. So what we're gonna do is, I don't know how to do that, so I'm gonna do it my own redneck hillbilly way. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this plug out. I'm just gonna turn it upside down. I'm gonna get my handy dandy about dandy whatchamacallit, measuring cup, and I'm gonna see how much is in there. See if I can't put this on something so it don't fall down and over. Maybe if I'm not challenged. Okay, let's see if I can get this. We're just gonna take this. Well, there's nothing coming out of there, so I must be doing it wrong. Here, let me see if I can't use the drain bolt. I just didn't want to mess up the drain bolt because them's usually in there pretty good. Let me see if I can. One thing I did want to try doing is after I got this old piece of crap off of there, I wanted to see if it was spinning, and it is spinning just fine. So I don't know. I don't hear anything. You know how like in a compressor, if you turn it, you can hear like the pump turning, but I can't hear anything. Maybe it's not any good. I'm gonna drain the oil out of it and see how much was left in there. Well, that was a problem with it. That's probably what happened. Somebody probably installed it and it never worked. I don't know. I just bought this car a few months ago. I don't know what happened with it. Ain't got no oil in it. Ain't got no gas in it. Alright, well, I filled it up as good as I could, I guess. I mean, it's overflowing every time that I turn it. I made a big old good mess in the garage, but oh, whatever. I just hope there ain't an air pocket in there that I couldn't get out. But anyhow, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this plug off and I'm gonna put on the old the hose thingy, and then we'll be ready to install her. Alright, so this is where we're at. We got the compressor in. Remember, it's just those 4 bolts and then your lines. We got the lines on. Now what we did was we threw in the alternator without anything plugged into it or anything. You're going to want to put the main swivel bolt back there that it pivots on, pivot bolt, in first, so you can move it up and down with that little guided angle plate there. And you're going to want to screw in your tensioner bolt first. So tighten that one all the way down, and well, not all the way down, just until the belt only has maybe this much play in it. Okay, you only want like a 1/2 inch, like not much. And if it's too loose when you start up your car, after you pressurize the lines and everything and you turn your AC on, you're going to want to tighten it up if it squeals, and you don't want it to be too tight. After you get it to about 1/2 inch, tighten down your the other bolt right here that sticks in from the side. That one will lock it in place and hold it there. Now that that's tight, the last thing that you're going to want to do is hook up your grounding wire and the other quick disconnect plug into your alternator. So I'll go ahead and do that real quick, and then the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm not gonna turn on the AC because the lines don't have any refrigerant in them, and you don't want to start it without anything in it. You could ruin your brand new compressor. So I'm going to take it down to the shop because I don't have a vacuum pump, and have them charge my lines for me, and hopefully, cross my fingers, that's what the issue was, and I'll let you know.